Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. And perhaps you've noticed there is a distinct lack of cat in my lap. And this is because this morning, when Audie and I got up, and we got up around 4 o'clock, we got up to skunk smell. And this does not happen in my neighborhood, not anymore. It used to, but then we got Audie. And Audie clearly took this very personally. So he went out earlier today. It rained, so he had to come back in. It's not raining now, although I think it's going to start up again. But right now, he is out skunk hunting because this is his neighborhood and he is in charge. So yeah, he's going to go out and track down those skunks and give them what for. Now, Audie has apparently successfully chased the skunks away, but because he has never come home smelling like skunk, I don't think he's ever actually engaged with them, which is good, because that would be an incredibly unfair fight. Audie is an apex predator. He will go after foxes and dogs. He torments the neighbor's dog, and that is this massive Cane Corso across the street. But I don't like it when Audie goes after critters that are smaller than he is. It's okay if he scoots them into another neighborhood or, down the street somewhere, but I don't want him slaughtering everything that crosses his path. And unfortunately, he's a cat. He will. So we'll have to see how he makes out. And certainly, we're going to know if we get up tomorrow to more skunk smell. Yeah, well, somebody's asleep on the job. All right, we're going to take a look at the intro, and then we'll get right into it. So before we get into the subject of the video, I do have a bit of bad news that I want to share with you, and I have Lex's permission to share this. And I thought we'd just get it out of the way. As many of you are aware, we went through this long period of wishing Catherine, the Prince of Wales, well as she was battling cancer. But also Lex's mom, because Lex is a member of our community, and her mom, too, was fighting the good fight. And I'm sorry to have to say that it looks like Lex's mom's battle is coming to an end. Please excuse me, I'm sad about this. I've never met Lex's mom, but I know all about her, and I know how hard this is on the family. I also know that Lex comments on our videos all the time. I know many of you have wished the family well, and I know that this is probably the time when the family can do with as many good wishes as they can lay their hands on. So, Lex ordinarily comments on the videos, and if she does, I'll pin that comment so that you all have a chance, well, as I say, to wish them well. I will also say that sad though this may be, it looks like this is not going to be a protracted process, and that, I think, is a blessing. And in a situation like this, we need to look for our blessings wherever we can find them. So, yes, our thoughts and prayers are with Lex and her whole family. I'm going to take a quick break, blow my nose, and then come back. Okay, sorry about that. It always makes me feel extremely unprofessional and like I am cheating you when I can't manage to keep a handle on my emotions. So, please forgive me. Now, let's move on to the subject at hand for this video. I get, as we all do, from YouTube, a whole list of recommended videos, and the videos I get depend on the mood of the YouTube bots. If I've been putting out content, as I do on Thursday and Sunday evenings, about Harry and Meghan and the royal family, I get a lot of royal family videos and Hollywood scandal videos. I've noticed that there is some sort of pairing there. So, royal family, Harry and Meghan, California, Hollywood scandals. Yeah, you can see where the bots are going with this. But because I have on my Coffee and Conversation videos been talking a lot about clothing, fabrics, things like this, I ended up getting a video today, as a matter of fact. So this is not the video I was planning, but I'm going to take the video I've got. So I got a video in my feed that is from a small YouTube channel. The channel is Maggi Fuchs, and I'd never heard of this channel before. I will link it in the video notes. And she is a woman who is apparently backpacking her way through Europe. This is the only one of her videos I have seen, and I expect, based on her accent and her name, I'm not sure about this, this is just my suspicion, that she is from one of the Germanic nations, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. That's my guess. But that's all I really know about her. And she did a video about merino wool and her review of it, which essentially is that she's not for it. She is past merino. It's something she's moving away from. And I thought I would like to take a look at this because, first of all, we can talk about fabrics. We do that a lot on this channel. But also, it gives us a good opportunity to look at how it is that a perfectly honest, legitimate, and I believe very sincere review can be more reflective of a person's individual experience than the subject matter in general. And so I think we've got a couple of educational opportunities in here. So let's get started. Maggie does not like merino wool, and she had 5.5 reasons for not liking it. So I'm going to take a look at what her objections were, what my thoughts are on the subject, and how it is that I believe she is being perfectly sincere, that this is a legitimate, well-intentioned review, but perhaps not as applicable as it might be if it were not colored so strongly by her own personal experiences. So let me start with the first objection she had, which is she does not believe merino wool can go for many, many wearings without washing and still be odor resistant. And I have to say, I have a completely different experience with this. And for a head-to-head comparison, I'm just going to talk about my socks and not other merino wool items, because frankly, my socks range from 60 to 90% merino wool. So there are other man-made materials that are in the composition of these socks. And something that Maggie had said in her video led me to believe that a lot of her merino products are also blends. So that's why I think it's head-to-head. There have been times in my personal experience when I have worn, for example, running shoes for my little walks, and at the end of the day, if I haven't taken them off, which, by the way, I do now, and my running shoes now are not man-made materials. I try to stick more with leather and canvas. But there were times when I would take my shoes off at the end of the day and say, good heavens, my feet do not smell good. Eek. Wool socks absolutely altered that for me, no question about it. But I can't say the same about my shirts because I'm blessed in that I have never had personal odor issues. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know. I got lucky. I don't use deodorant and I don't use antiperspirant, and maybe that has something to do with it. Instead, I go back to what my grandmothers used, which is baby powder. And my mother, who would not spend $1 on a can of baby powder when she could get a box of cornstarch for 29 cents. And as we all know, if she could save 2 cents on that box, she'd drive across town for it. But my mother was the same way. She never liked deodorant or antiperspirant. Long before anyone was talking about the aluminum content, my mother had decided that deodorant and antiperspirant only makes you perspire more. I don't know where that came from. It may well have been her justification for the 29-cent cornstarch, who knows? But that's what I've always used, and I don't have problems. I don't know what to say. However, now let me go over and play devil's advocate. I am not living Maggi Fuchs lifestyle. I am not backpacking through Europe. At times in my life, and by the way, these are usually the times when I took off my shoes at the end of the day and said, good heavens, my feet do not smell good. At times I have backpacked on the Appalachian Trail, gone out camping, and I've spent as much as a week living out of a tent where personal hygiene was very much a luxury. And yes, I would have to say I have never tried wearing wool garments in those conditions with any expectation that they would be up to the task of dealing with whatever I might smell like when I have gone for a week without a shower. Because frankly, when you're out in the woods, the best you can do is a face cloth and cold water, so I have to say, this is probably her personal experience based on what I would have to say is a unique or close to unique lifestyle, which is backpacking around Europe. So my experience is very different. In my experience, I can wear a pair of socks 4 or 5 times before they need to go into the wash. And this is wool socks. All my socks are wool. Before they need to go into the wash. And even then, they only really need to go into the wash because after I've worn it for 4 or 5 times, I have to put it in the wash. It took me a long time to get used to that because I was the kind of person who would put on a pair of socks in the morning, and if for some reason I had to take them off, I would not put that same pair of socks back on later. I would get a new pair of socks. So yeah, it took me a while to wrap my head around that one. But I have to say, I've become comfortable with it now, and I have not noticed the problems that Maggi Fuchs is noticing. So I look at this and say, well, her personal experience is one end of the spectrum, and mine is another. Another of her objections was that merino wool is not perfect for all climates. And I got to give her that one. Go ahead, point well taken. Merino wool is probably not the best choice for a hot tropical climate. Now, she's backpacking around Europe, so I would imagine she must be in countries that have Mediterranean climates, countries that have very hot summers. I would have to agree with that. I have hot summers here, and Can I wear wool? Yes. This, by the way, is 100% merino wool, and right now it's about 77 degrees out. I say about. Well, it's 77 degrees. I don't know where the about is coming from, but it's 77 degrees out. I am comfortable. So would I say that this is something that doesn't accommodate a warm summer? No, I wouldn't go that far. Would I wear a wool t-shirt in 90-degree weather, which is my definition of tropical, or just, summer here? No. I've tried it. I have not tried my wool tank tops in the summer, and that's what I'm hoping to do this summer, is dig some of those out and wear them as tank tops instead of undershirts, which is what I do in the winter. I get that extra layer of wool. Oh, yummy. So I am going to give her that point, because I do think that, especially the way she phrased the objection, not perfect for all climates. Yes, absolutely. A very tropical climate, no, not ideal. But for most temperate climates, yeah, I think it is. I certainly find it to be so. But again, I am not backpacking through the Mediterranean ports of Europe. Next up, she said that, and this is, I believe, her third point, she said that wool is fragile. Now, I have not had that experience with 100% merino wool. But as I mentioned, she said that she is using wool blends, and that has absolutely been my experience. So, what I'm thinking is maybe the fragility is not about the wool, but more about the blends. Now, not a problem with my socks. My socks are fine. But I did get a nightshirt about 6 months ago, and it had a 30% nylon content. And I paid way too much for it, all things considered. At 70% wool, 30% nylon, I paid $90 for it, and it was on sale. So the ordinary price for this, which, by the way, I just looked up on their website, is $120. For a wool blend piece, no, that's outrageous. Would I pay that again? No. Would I pay it if I realized what that 30% merino wool was going to do to the nightshirt? Absolutely not. Because my nightshirt got a snag and a run. Now, all of my fellow baby boomer ladies are going to know exactly what this is all about. This is nylon. This is what used to happen to our nylon stockings back in the 60s and 70s, before pantyhose sort of took over the market. And even with pantyhose taking over the market, the only real improvement was that pantyhose had a lower price because it was more cheaply made. But the pantyhose, these products were inherently disposable. The earlier nylons, the ones with the seams up the back, they were more sturdily made, and they tended to last longer. You would take your stockings off at the end of the day, wash them out in the bathroom sink, throw them over the towel rack or the shower rod, and there they would be the next day, ready to go. But they were semi-disposable because, in fact, they could easily snag and run. And I don't know anyone who could manage to hold on to a pair of nylon stockings and keep them in good shape for more than maybe 2 weeks. That was pretty much the limit. Earlier times, when we went back to like the 1930s and 40s, stockings could and did last a much longer period of time. They were semi-disposable because they were inherently lightweight, thin, rather flimsy fabric, but they were not quite as bad as they were in the 60s. So yeah, we're kind of used to that. You say nylon to a baby boomer, and we're thinking in terms of runs and snags, and You need to get it at a low price because you're not going to have it forever. You're definitely not going to have those same stockings a year from now. So I would have to say that I think Maggie's impression of wool being a fragile commodity is based more on the fact that she's using a lot of wool blends, especially blends with man-made fabrics like nylon that do snag and tear and run. The next one was her concerns about care. And she said that wool needs a great deal of care. And I have to say that I'm not even going to make allowances for this. That's just not true. I wash my wool in my washing machine in a mesh garment bag. I use whatever detergent I am using for everything else, which is usually going to be a relatively mild detergent because I don't like harsh detergents in general, which, by the way, is a habit I got into because my lifelong bestie reacted to strong laundry detergents, and he would often, come over for periods of time, bring a bag, we'd have to do his laundry, and he reacted to harsh laundry detergents, so I got out of the habit of using harsh laundry detergents. I should really get into the habit of using Ivory Snow, which is the detergent my mother always used because that's what you used for baby diapers. And now that I think about it, I think the next time I get laundry detergent, that's what I will pick up. I've been also experimenting with those laundry detergent sheets, which means it's probably going to be a long time before I need to buy detergent again because I got a nice big box of those things and a little goes a long way. But other than that, I don't have any problems. Mesh bag, they go in. I wash everything, not just wool, but everything inside out, because that's how you're supposed to wash things. And I don't have an agitator washer. I have an impeller washer. So the wool doesn't get treated any differently than anything else I'm throwing in the washing machine. And it comes out perfect. I'm absolutely perfect. Out of the washer, onto a hanger, onto the rod, or outside for a little bit of air drying, and it's fine. When I wash and dry my wool outside, it's like a couple of hours and it's dry. So she is hand washing her items. So at least that's what she had referenced in her experiment, that she hand washed wool t-shirts in her bathroom sink, along with cotton and polyester t-shirts, and the wool was the tardy one when it came to drying. That is not how I wash my clothing. I do not hand wash my clothing in the bathroom sink. Everything goes into the washer, and so everything is, the water is expelled from the fabrics, and the wool dries quickly. It will not dry as quickly as something I throw into the clothes dryer. That's absolutely for sure. But does it dry quickly? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've never had an item that took longer than 12 hours to dry. And usually I will do the laundry, throw things up on the shower rod, and the next morning it's perfectly dry. So that's one that I'm just going to have to call and say, no. This is a function of her lifestyle of having to use coin-operated machines at laundromats, using whatever harsh detergents are available to her at the laundromat, and that is a function of her lifestyle, backpacking through Europe, and not a problem inherent to wool garments. So I would have to say that even though I do believe her when she says that the polyester items come out of the hand wash in the sink, at the end of the day, they dry quicker. Yes, because you can wring out a polyester shirt. My gosh, you could do all kinds of things to a polyester shirt that you really shouldn't or wouldn't do to a more expensive natural fiber. So I'm going to say no. That's about her lifestyle and not about the wool. And this was her 1.5. The idea of more care in terms of washing and then that wool dries faster is a myth. So I would say no. That's not my experience. And furthermore, she has her experience with hand washing items in a bathroom sink. My experience is based on throwing everything all together in the washer, taking out a lot of things that I line dry, not just wools. I will line dry my linen shirts. By the way, they can take a serious beating. You know, you want something that you can throw in the washer and will come out great no matter what you do to it, go with linen. And the wool will dry just as quickly as the linen. So again, this was her experience, but since most of us are not washing our clothes in a bathroom sink, I believe this just ties back into her unique lifestyle. The final one is price. And I'm going to give with one hand and take away with the other. She is paying, let me just take a look at this. She is paying an average of 60 to 90 euros for her wool t-shirts, which, as I say, many of them are wool blends, which I consider to be outrageous. That is $70 to $100 US. The reason I wore this shirt, 100% wool, $22. Period. By the way, although I'm not going to dig out the price tag, I can absolutely promise you that I know exactly, well, you all know that. I keep records of all my purchases. I know exactly how much I paid for this. I know when and where I got it. I know the company that manufactured it, the retailer I got it from. That all goes into my files. $22. It is a men's t-shirt. And this one, it's long. I think I got it from the men's big and tall section. And it was on sale because men's tall, fire engine red, you got to know a lot of guys are going to balk at that. And it goes down to the top of my thighs. So this t-shirt is one day probably going to replace that nightshirt that got the snag in it because, yeah, it's long enough to be a shorty nightshirt. So this is my least expensive merino wool item. My most expensive shirts are in the range, well, $60. I was in the range of, yeah, like it's in the range of 77 degrees out. Now, I have two that cost me $60. One was $60 exactly. The other was $60.29. And yeah, I will calculate it down to the penny. So you have to know that includes whatever shipping charges there were, whatever taxes there were. If I give you a cost, it's my landed cost, not some abstract cost I've pulled off a website. So $60 are my most expensive items. Now, given the fact that she is paying US 70 to 100, and let me see what that was, that is 50 to 75 pounds UK. So it's less expensive. I'm not sure why she's paying so much. And again, I'm going to have to attribute that to her lifestyle. Although, what can I say? I'm attributing this to the fact that she is living her life in Europe, and I'm living mine in the United States. Because that, I would have to imagine, would be the only difference. The average cost of my wool shirts, and I'm including everything from tank tops, which, by the way, are not $22. They are more expensive than some of my regular t-shirts. Everything from tank tops right up to heavyweight wool long-sleeved shirts. And those, by the way, were the two $60 shirts. They were higher priced because they are heavier weight. In the US, and I don't know what it's like in Europe, but in the US, merino wool clothing is usually priced according to weight. This is a midweight t-shirt, which I would consider to be a normal t-shirt weight if you were buying a t-shirt made of cotton or, polyester or whatever they're made of. So, yeah, the price difference, unfortunately, I think is the reality of buying anything in Europe. I think everything in Europe is going to be more costly. How does this stack up against similar items in the US, though? Because I do want to try to give her the benefit of the doubt on this. Well, you can go to H&M or whatever, Kmart. Is Kmart still in operation? I don't know. We had a Kmart in my area, but they went out of business a couple of years ago. So I'm not even sure Kmart exists as a merchant. Walmart, however, does. Can I buy a t-shirt at Walmart for under $22? Absolutely. I can buy one at Target for $10, and it will be 100% cotton. And it'll probably be a slightly heavier weight than this. And I know this because even though I don't buy t-shirts at Target, I do get tank tops at Target. And by the way, I get them for $6 to $8. So, yeah, this is no bargain compared to a $6 to $8 tank top. And my wool tank tops are in the range of $30 to $45. The $30 ones are from the men's section, and they are men's undershirts, and they are great. They are also a heavier weight than the women's tank tops, which are running at about $45. So, price, no, not unreasonable given what you are getting for your money. However, if I were in Europe paying $75 to $100 for a wool blend t-shirt, would I consider that acceptable? Absolutely not. So I have to say that is a very subjective viewpoint. And I turn to all of our European viewers. Is that normal for what you're getting? Now, I just gave you a rough estimate of what a cotton tank top or t-shirt would cost in the U.S. from Target, a national outlet. And tank tops as low as $6 to $8, and that's not even on sale. That's just going to Target, buy a tank top, 100% cotton, that's what they cost. T-shirts, $10. I can walk into Target and walk out with a t-shirt. No problem. I can do that every day of the week. I don't have to wait for a special sale. If I went to Walmart, I could probably do even better. And again, 100% cotton. If I were willing to look at polyester, I'd probably get an even lower price. So that's the pricing I'm throwing out to my European friends. Is that comparable to what you are paying, or are we in fact getting much better deals in general over here? And if we are the prices that Maggi Fuchs is paying in Europe more indicative of a difference in the cost of living between Europe and the United States? Because I think it might be. Just saying. So that was pretty much where her video stopped. This is why she's no longer getting merino wool. My experience being very different. I am not backpacking my way through Europe. I am not climbing the Appalachian Trail on a daily basis, although frankly I do go up there from time to time. I am not living a lifestyle that's hard on my clothing. I am living that very privileged first world lifestyle. So yes, I'm not expecting my clothing to get hard wear. My socks, however, do get hard wear. And as I say, that is not my experience also My socks are the one category of wool item in my wardrobe that is not 100% wool and probably never will be. It's always going to be a blend. I'm always going to need a little bit of, well, elastane is usually what they put in to ensure that the socks stay up and keep their shape and whatever else elastane does. But they are my wool blend items, so not my experience. But when we look at this, do I believe she was giving a sincere review? Yes. Do I believe that review was largely colored by her very unique lifestyle, backpacking through Europe? Absolutely. The main points of this are, backpacking through Europe means your personal hygiene might not be what it is if you were living in a home, going home to a place where you could have a bath or a shower whenever you wanted. And I know this because that was my experience when I was a kid. I would do this on vacation. Actually, yes, isn't that bizarre? I would go away on vacation to a situation in which my personal hygiene was drastically compromised. But I liked camping, and I still do. So is that a factor? I would have to say yes. If she is dependent on coin-operated laundry with those industrial machines that are notoriously hard on your clothing, with whatever detergents, no name, laundromat brand detergent she might be forced to buy, yeah. And if you are not in a situation where you have a towel bar or a shower rod available to you whenever you want it, the drying time could be a factor. It's not for me because I can leave things on the shower rod or the towel bar or bring it outside, hang it on the patio, not an issue. So that is what the takeaway should be here, that, oh my gosh, people often ask me what it was that I got out of my experience being in academic environments for so long. It's like, yeah, if you're willing to teach a class, I'm willing to take it. And my standard answer was that being in a university taught me that people of good faith and good intentions can have differing opinions without one of them having to be right and the other having to be wrong. Most important lesson I ever took away from higher ed. And that is what is at play here. I want us all to get that lesson, that Maggi Fuchs is giving us an honest review, and I believe she is being honest and sincere. I am giving you my honest review, but because we are coming at this from such different perspectives, these are diametrically opposed. She has sworn off merino wool. Me, I am looking to increase my wool stash because it is working out so very, very well for me. So I would have to say we are at opposite ends of the spectrum. And I can look at her position and see why. Because of her unique circumstances, this could be a very legitimate position to take. Well, obviously it could be because it's the position she is taking. So, yeah. But that was something, having an opportunity to do this, to pull apart a very specific example, I think is good for us, as it gives us a chance to see why reviews are not always what we think they are. And they don't have to be dishonest or sponsored, bought and paid for. some influencer saying, oh, well, this company sent me this stuff and it's great and you should go out and buy it, which, by the way, I see for brands like Aritzia and Zara all the time. And it's like, good heavens, I wouldn't take that stuff if you gave it to me. Thank you very much. But it doesn't have to be a review in bad faith, or without taking it to the extreme of bad faith. It doesn't have to be a review that has a point of view to get across. Let's put it that way. You can take people who have no axe to grind one way or another. Now, Maggi Fuchs is not being sponsored by some anti-wool monopoly. I don't know what the anti-wool lobby would be. Definitely not coming out of Australia or New Zealand, but she is not, somebody who is out to destroy the wool industry. That is not like her perspective on this. She's just sharing her experiences, and I am not subsidized by, the merino wool producers. It's just my perspective, and our experiences are very different. But it doesn't mean that either one of us is right with the other being wrong. We can both be right from our own viewpoints, according to our own experiences. So, throwing that out there, and I'm really grateful to Maggie for providing the opportunity to, to just let me use this as an object lesson so that we can take a look at this and then start applying this to other reviews we might hear, to other recommendations we might get. And it just helps us to be smarter consumers. So that's the takeaway. All right, we are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. As I mentioned earlier, if Lex posts a comment on this video, and she usually does comment on the videos, I'll make sure to pin it so that no one will have any trouble finding her, in case you do want to wish her and her family well. I know they would appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go haul the bad cat in and hope he hasn't encountered a smelly skunk. And I will see those of you who followed Just Chatting tonight, 8 o'clock New York City time. For everyone else, I look forward to seeing you next weekend for more coffee and conversation. And in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.